everyone, and welcome to day 3 of Fieldwork in Langstone Harbour.
Today's video will give you a rundown of the Saxon and medieval period in the harbour and tell you a bit about how we do archaeology in a wetland environment.
Volunteer Rodrigo and patron Andy have joined the team once again, so let's get straight into it. After the end of the Roman occupation in Britain, the Saxons took over and brought the country out of the Dark Ages and into the Middle Ages. Langstone in this period had 3 main activities: fishing, oyster farming and salt working. Although the fishing industry was deemed important in the harbour in the medieval and post-medieval periods, it was never a major commercial activity, and the fisheries were in decline by 1813. It was always much more of a local affair for small markets, with catches consisting of mullet, bass, turbot, cod and whiting, known from the harbour, as well as mackerel, sole, plaice, eels and prawns. There was continuation in the exploitation of oysters from the Roman period through to the medieval, right into the later post-medieval period, when attempts were made to commercialise the industry. Some of the oyster beds that were created in this period were made by reusing old salterns to contain the oysters.
Up until the late 18th century, salt working also maintained its importance in the area, operating on the fringes of the harbour. In the 13th and 14th century, most salt works in Britain declined due to the quality of imported salt, but Langstone survived, as it supplies Portsmouth and its army and ships with salt for their meat. The 17th century production was much more industrialised. It was in this thrust that in 1664, Great Salt and Salt Works, a large corporation that produced salt, established its salterns on the east coast of Portsea Island. During the late 18th century, its importance started to wane and the industry started to decline until its disappearance altogether in the 19th century. The harbour was a perfect location for salt workings as it was sheltered with plenty of low-lying marshes that could be enclosed in form of salt pans. Whilst there are a few finds from this period, there's plenty of documentary evidence available. The Domesday Book records a pre-conquest settlement, and later documents detail land ownership and tenure in the medieval period.
Of the remains that were found, the most significant are the Saxon logboat, the sign circle and a wooden harpoon. The logboat was excavated from the northwest shore of Long Island in 2003, and it was radiocarbon dated to AD 500. The boat was crafted out of an oak tree and is currently on permanent display here at Portsmouth City Museum. The Sinar Circle is located in Sinar Lake in the south of the harbour. It is formed of 27 oak posts arranged in a circle 6 metres in diameter, with oak wood wattle panels that surround an area of flints. It is most likely an oyster bed and has been radiocarbon dated between 960 and 1180 AD, which is the late Saxon early medieval period. The wooden harpoon was dredged from Swear Deep, and when it was recovered it was commented that it was thought to have been stuck in the mud as if thrown or shot. It was most likely used to harpoon flatfish, especially in the shallow waters of the harbour. Dating reveals it to have been made between 1230 and 1390 AD, and although no formal species identification has been made, it is thought to have been made from yew. The head is also interesting, as it is unusual in having a triangular cross-section with paired barbs on its upper flat surface. Parallels have been made between its design and the construction of prehistoric spears, even though the date shows it to be much newer. The resemblance to such an earlier design is unsurprising, as this utilitarian object has no reason to change its form, but contemporary examples of bone or wood are scarce, so there is no way to confirm this assumption. Organic finds such as these only survive in specific conditions, like the wetland areas of Langstone Harbour.
Archaeology can be difficult to undertake on solid land at the best of times. Working in the wetland environment makes it all the more challenging. Wetland, as the name suggests, consists of waterlogged areas, usually bordering the rivers or the sea. Here at Langstone, thick mudflats bordered by scrubby grasses are home to a huge variety of wildlife. This sort of environment would have been useful for people in the past, as it could provide them with food in the form of fish, shellfish and waterfowl, lots of different plants for foods and medicines, and raw materials like salt and mud and clay for bricks. For us today, wetland environments are also very useful because they can preserve it with exceptional quality types of archaeological material we might not normally find at other types of site, such as wood and fabric. Because such material gets waterlogged very quickly, it means that the bacteria that would normally cause it to rot can't survive because of the lack of oxygen in the water. This environment is very dynamic and sediments are very active, so things can be covered and uncovered overnight. It also means that what you thought was solid ground one day might not necessarily be so the next. However, this can make getting to that archaeology a challenge. As you might have seen in our previous videos, we've had to use a boat to get to the site. We also have a limited window between tides in which it is safe to work, particularly for those at the edge of the intertidal zone, which are only covered by spring tides where there is a maximum tidal range. The islands here are crisscrossed by mud-filled creeks which are often hidden by tall grass, so we have to be careful where we tread and be wary of deep, sticky mud. Due to this type of ground, it means we can't drive over it, so we often have to carry out. An extra hazard is the possibility of unexploded wartime shells and ammunition from the World Wars. The whole area of Southampton, Portsmouth and Chichester was bombed heavily because they're important ports, and Langstone was caught in the middle. Langstone Harbour is also a wildlife reserve, so access is limited at certain times of the year into certain areas, which is why the fieldwork is taking place now in September. The rest of the year, various species of bird are nesting for the winter or raising young. Despite the practical difficulties associated with the work here, the results can often be rewarding. The stunning Saxon logboat currently resides in the Portsmouth City Museum, but it was found between North Bynness and Long Island and owes its survival to particular conditions of this environment.
Today has been a bit wet and very muddy, but has also been very productive as we finished the auguring and investigated an interesting wooden structure.
Join us in tomorrow's Arc Bite for Langstone during the post-medieval period, and we'll give you an explanation of how the RTK works. But bye-bye for now.
Bye!